Sincerity, I'd ask you respect mine. Well, all due respect in the most unparliamentary language. Please. Fuck you, Deputy Stagg. Sorry, fuck you.
Hey. Isn't that true? Answer the question. Answer the question. Answer the question.
Nobody's smoke screening. Perhaps if you stop waffling, we might get some work done. You're a waffler. You've been years around here waffling.
I notice there are very few here from Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael. You're not here. You're not listening. You don't care. And to put it bluntly, for the amount of phone calls I've got from constituents over the last 24 hours, you just really don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I've travelled to matches. One friend of mine in particular is a small builder, or maybe more appropriately, to be truthful, I don't know how good he is at it. His father was the small builder. And I notice sometimes, Senator, that talent skips a generation.
That's good, actually. That's good.
So, come on, but join in by all means. You're welcome.
MEPs make an annual salary of, I think, 35 grand, plus they can make anything up to 200 grand a year in expenses. Is it the same for commissioners?
Well, I don't know how much exactly they get, but you're quite right that they do get the same salary, the starting salary, as a TD would get here at home, right? Then they get expenses for going...
Close to 5 times that.
Oh, yes, they get expenses for going over and back. I don't know exactly what it is. As far as I am concerned, I get, give or take, it works out at about, with expenses, 140,000 a year, and I pay 30.3% tax on that, so it's about a net 100,000. And out of that 100,000, I run a home in Dublin, Castlebar, and Brussels. I want to tell you something. Try it sometime when you have a couple of cars and 3 houses and 3 homes and a few housekeepers, and I want to tell you and everything else. But remember, it's a well-paid job.
I was abroad for several days on political work, advancing the cause of socialism. Yes, you can imagine, Count Cola, how perplexed I was when I came back to find my wardrobe almost empty. The Taoiseach had been in busy robbing my clothes. Now, I know up to recently the PDs hadn't a stitch left by the same Taoiseach, but we never expected him to take a walk on the left side of the street. And I thought first, good Taoiseach, there's 2 of us in it, we'll go down together.
For all plan will not work. A housing crisis created by Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and the capitalist housing market will not be solved by Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the capitalist housing market, even if the Greens are now included in the mix by way of decoration. The plan relies on the private sector to deliver 156,000 houses between now and 2030. But you cannot control what you do not own. And the state has no control over A, whether these houses are ever built, or B, what price that those that actually are built are sold at. We need an end to market madness, and the building of housing and the business of housing delivery needs to be taken out of the hands of the profiteers and into the hands of society by way of nationalisation of the building industry under democratic control. The people of Berlin have voted overwhelmingly in favour of taking 250,000 apartments owned and controlled by for-profit corporations into public ownership. They realise the importance of nationalisation as a tool for tackling their housing crisis. It is disappointing that both Sinn Féin and the Social Democrats spurned the opportunity this morning to support similar measures in this country. Sinn Féin telling the Journal.ie that it was not necessarily the answer to Ireland's housing woes, and the Social Democrats dodging the question altogether. Market madness will never solve Ireland's housing crisis, and nationalisation is key to tackling it, alongside a policy of building public housing on public land, council housing and genuinely affordable cost-price housing. The sooner all who oppose the government strategy see that, the better.
On LiRmedia.tv, and our usual email pertains, that's info@LiRmedia.tv, and this programme is what it says on the 10-man talk, what are affecting men in today's society and the challenges they face and all of that. Martin Lennon, welcome along.
Hi Pat, how are you?
Panelist. Today is a special day for us here in Man Talk because we have Mr. Dave Sheehan along. Welcome, Dave, to the show, and you're most welcome.
How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
And Dave Sheehan is a high-performance consultant, mind, body, and I suppose we'll be counting the spirit there as well. That's important as well.
It's an important element as well, yeah. Mind, body, health, spirit.
We're both physical and spiritual, physical and mystical, whatever people want to describe us. But Dave, tell us a bit about what you do yourself, you know?
Sure. Like I've worked in this industry for the last 25 plus years. What I work on especially is putting an emphasis on regaining control of the mind, body, health area of one's life. Because for most people, you know, we're living in a very hamster wheel type world, very stress induced world, and people are just like going 100 miles per hour. And most of the time it means that they're neglecting themselves. So I put a big emphasis on regaining control of that area, because your mind's the control tower. So it's important to get control of that area for many reasons. It's important to have control of your body in terms of your own self-image and how you want it to look and how you want it to feel and perform. And it's important as well then to have good optimal health. So, you know, for longevity, for fighting disease, for everything, you know, we need to have a focus on health. And, you know, for far too long, there isn't enough focus on health. So I work with people to get control of mind, body, and health, and then that has a positive impact on every other area of their life without even focus on them. Because when you feel good in yourself, all the other areas just automatically improve. So that's kind of the key area that I put a huge amount of effort and passion into.
And for people who are looking at this show now, Dave, later on, how would they contact you to I suppose, to hook up with you and to find out how you can be of assistance to them?
Sure. Like I put out a load of stuff across all social media, like I'm on every single one of the different platforms. So if you just put my name in to even Google or any social media, you'll find me. And just remember, it's SHEA, not the SHEA or EE. That's the only difference.
We're not that grandiose from Cork where I come. It's a double E we have, plain old double E.
We've the special spelling.
Now, when I was speaking to you, went to Martin during the week, we were just talking about the show coming up, you know, and I suppose there are a few issues, there are more than a few, but obviously each program will be only able to cover one or two items, and maybe three items if we're lucky. But I suppose to start the ball rolling, there has been a lot of discussion in the media about this murder that happened over in Britain, and it's horrific. Any murder of a human being is always horrific. And particularly poignant is a murder of a human being who are cut down on their own, strolling away home, not very far from her own home, and she was taken and murdered. And obviously, we cannot say much more than that because there's an ongoing investigation, but it's horrific as well. And it brought up the whole issue, I suppose, of women on their own, but also, we're not dismissing this by any manner of means now, but most of the people who are attacked at night time and the weekend are men. We're not minimizing this murder by saying that. We're just stating a factual thing, Martin. What do you think of this? There's been a huge backlash, and rightly so, against men for attacking women. But do you think it's a bit out of proportion when you look at the statistics?
Yeah, I mean, most men at the weekend or Friday night or Saturday night are attacked by fellow men, you know. What's happening here from the outset, what's very shocking is that it was somebody in the law and a police officer, you know, that was involved in this case. But beyond that, like, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you have certain agendas, being pushed, of course, at the same time. At the same time, you do have to listen to women when they're saying, like, they feel uneasy at nighttime. Like, you hear some women, I was reading during the week, that the boyfriend can go for a walk or go for a jog, and they feel uneasy going for a walk or jog at nighttime, or they have to clutch their keys while they're walking to their car, or hold their bag tight as well, you have to listen to what they're saying as well. But I don't know what you thought about it yourself, Pat and Dave.
What do you think, Dave, about this whole issue came up about safety of all, but particularly women?
No, I think it's hugely important issue, and of course it's horrendous what happened, and these things shouldn't happen. But I think if you take, like we said, guys are always being attacked as well, but you hear so little about it. So I think a lot of things are perception, a lot of things are your own expectation, and if you're constantly hearing as a female that it's dangerous, and you're going to maybe get attacked, and be prepared, and maybe you shouldn't go out. It gets into your head, and that maybe you shouldn't go out, and then you feel less safe, and it creates. It's not a false impression of a lack of safety, because look, there is danger in being outside and walking certain places in every town and every city, and there always has been. It's just I think there's so much more kind of consciousness and awareness, and media-driven information of that this becoming like it's a way bigger thing now than it's ever been. When I think the main difference is if you take a couple of decades ago, it was more people never thought about it. It's so different than people leaving kids out. When I was a kid, we went out, we were gone pretty much all day. Parents never worried where we were; they just assumed we were okay. And it was the same with women walking in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the same with men walking, the same thing. Didn't mean that no one was attacked. Of course they were attacked, but now there's just so much awareness, and definitely there needs to be a more focus on the fact that it is men being attacked as well as women, not just women.
Yeah, I suppose that can be lost in all of this, and not take away from the horrific event. But I suppose you would. I mean, I occasionally would go out for a walk at night. I live in Shannon, and it's small. Shannon is relatively safe anyway, thank God. But now, and since this event, I've been noticing, normally you go out for a walk at night and you wouldn't notice passing people, just wouldn't take any notice. You'd say hi if they knew you or whatever. The odd one, they wouldn't let many up, but certainly there's been no women out walking at night on their own, and I think that's sad in a way, but nevertheless, I suppose, look, we're all unsafe on our own at night as a general rule of thumb, the way society has gone, Dave. I think you're right there, And I remember as a young lad being sent out after my dinner, go way out now, I don't want to see you again till 6 o'clock for your supper. And off you went. And you won't get that now. You won't tell your own kids now, and I didn't. Go way out now, I don't want to see you till 6 o'clock, There is that, which is sad, I suppose. It is sad in a way, but look, we can do very little about that. It's called progress in many quarters, but it's regress in my mind, the way we're looking.
No, I think so, and like I said, it's getting into people's minds. Like it just popped into my own head there. Like when I was what age was I? 19. Yeah, 19 in town, coming out of town one night, I was attacked by 8 guys and beaten the life out of me and beat me into hospital basically. I'm lucky I survived. If I wasn't so fit, I would have probably not survived, let's say. Because I've had a fair beating now. But these things happen. Like I'm sure I wasn't the only one that night. I certainly wasn't in the hospital. There was loads of them, and it was a lot of guys, but of course there's some women as well. So it's just, look, there's just so much fear mongering about so much stuff, and this is another one of them. Of course there needs to be an awareness, and needs to be an awareness of people ideally not being on their own if they can avoid it, but if they are, pick certain areas, certain times. But it's like even the suggestions of, women stay at home after 6, or guys, maybe you shouldn't go out after 6. Like it's ridiculous. Like we have to live our lives as well.
You do, of course. And Martin, coming to you there, but Dave's experience indeed, well, I won't say who it was because they know me and I know them, but I've heard of horrific assaults for particularly no reason, just because you're on your own, and I don't know what it is. It's like wild animals, I don't know, attacking the weakest animal, I suppose, the contrast in the animal kingdom. But Martin, you hear of these assaults, these horrific assaults by men on men, groups of men on men. But then, of course, on the other hand, then, if the odd case that goes to court, you have a whole plethora of people standing up in court and making excuses for the assault, ignoring the victim, making excuses. Oh, it was a drink, Your Honour. He was this, Your Honour. He was, instead of treating it for what it was, a violent, unprovoked attack on another human being by another human being. and dealing with it. And that's the sad part of it for me, Martin. What do you think yourself? You know, that's the sad
Yeah,
part.
you get that as well. Like, I mean, I know we're getting less of it now as well. Politicians sending in letters for them, like, vouching for them as well. But just to go back to the women for a second, you do see women going for walks in the evenings with their friends, even. But even there is, like, I do evening work, and even there's some workers, female workers, are finishing it at evening time, about 10:30, 11 o'clock. So, like, you do see them as well. Like, so it's stereotyping all of that. But yeah, look, when you see group of men anyway, like, do you know what I mean? There's groups, individuals. You try and cross the road to avoid the group. I don't know. People behave differently in groups, as they would as an individual. So, I don't know. It's just I don't know. Groups can be dangerous as well, but there can be positive things to groups as well.
Well, this is the Man Talk here on LiR Media.tv with our special guest today, Dave Sheehan, and he doesn't realise what we have in store for him down the line, but that's all right too. And Martin, our regular contributor, Martin Lennon. Now, I don't know, Dave, where you were. I can't remember where I was when I heard this phrase first, toxic masculinity. Now, I mean, when I heard that phrase first, I used to drive a taxi one time for a living, as I'll tell you, and taxi drivers, it's all night work, we need to make the money. But anyway, that was for a few years of my life. But toxic masculinity, where do you think it came from, Dave? Or when you heard it, can you remember back when you heard it, how did it strike you as a phrase towards men?
Well, it's a hell of a negative phrase anyway, that's for sure. So it doesn't bring up any good images into your mind or ideas or thoughts into your mind,
Yeah.
Again, it's like a lot of things at the moment. There's a lot of things that were normal now that are being under attack, and some things justifiably to some degree, but a lot of things not justifiably. And it's like the whole masculinity thing is under an enormous attack. And like some of the stuff I've seen, for instance, in the fashion industry is pretty shocking in terms of like the demasculinating of men basically, and trying to make what was incredibly unacceptable before very acceptable now. And look, there's a middle ground that's okay, and and self-expression on that side, but it's like I see a lot of things right now. There was one side and another. Now it's going so polar opposites. Like things are going way extreme, and they're going way extreme way too fast as well. And it's happening again with the demasculating of men, like at the toxic masculinity side, and many other areas. And the reins needs to be pulled a bit on it, because it is definitely getting out of control.
And Martin, when you hear that phrase, toxic masculinity, obviously, as I agree with Dave, they're saying it conjures up evil and negativity against men, all tarred with the same brush, which is very unfair, really, Martin, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're just talking about kind of, what people's perceptions are of men. There's different types of men, but there's different personality types then as well, for men, males and females. Yeah, they just talk about, see, a lot of it is linked. I mean, I was just reading about it here. Like, I mean, even they say it was part of the men's movement in the 1980s in America. They actually formulated the term toxic masculinity. I think probably because basically just to talk about different types of males, probably toxic masculinity, what they really mean is alpha males. Because there's different types of males, like there's even like in advertising, they have red, yellow, green, and blue. Like they have alpha males, kind of social animals, social butterflies, kind of green, kind of caring, peace and love people, and kind of, different types of people are into kind of books, kind of, and whatever. But yeah, it's kind of just used as kind of a stereotype to kind of beat all men with. And you see, you don't want to go the other way as well. You see that you don't want to go calling women names either, like, but you have certain phrases and terms to, it's kind of lazy in a kind of a way, like, but you have to go into what they really mean by that, like, just like what they say really, like one of the behaviors they say is like, I don't know if it's true because I've never been in a kind of boardroom meeting, really like that, but they say sometimes women, they say if a woman comes up with an idea at a meeting, that she does whatever, she'll say it, but it's not receptive and people don't really listen to it. But the man next to her says it, then all the men kind of agree with it. But I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they say. That's part of their things, like they say in life.
Just on that point, Martin, I think it's like everything. Like there's these generalizations, and of course that happens in some boardrooms, but also happens in other boardrooms where the woman's point is taken on board because it's a valid point. So it's just stupid generalizations.
It is. And I think it's lazy, as Martin and yourself, Dave, because if you don't want to deal with an issue head on, if you don't want to discuss it in a meaningful, intellectual and proper way, you create a box for that group of people to put into and dismiss them, like the green box or the blue box or the alpha male. I don't believe that at all myself personally. Maybe I'm too old now to change. Obviously, I'm never too old to change, but I believe men are men and women are women. And what I mean by that is men, there's a whole plethora of men and different behaviors for men, and the same with women. But grouping them into one phase like toxic masculinity or misogynistic, that's a word that's thrown around a lot, which is thrown around, in my opinion, carelessly, really, really, so they don't have to discuss it, And today, I mean, growing up today, I mean, my kids are all grown up now, and there's grandkids around, but when you look around the world today, and when you have your son, since it's a Man Talk program, we're not dismissing women, we're just talking about men, and you look for heroes for your son, because everyone needs heroes. My first hero obviously was my dad, and my next one was my teacher, and so on. You look for heroes for little boys going up, and you wonder who, like Dave, what would you think now? I know I'm putting you on the spot here. Heroes for boys going up today. I mean, apart from the superheroes and the comic heroes like Batman and all,
Yeah, no, they're few and far between, Like before, like you said, years ago, there would have been lots of heroes in different spheres, whether it was athletes, whether it was in business, whether it was politics, there was lots of different areas. Now you look at, for heroes, there's barely any that you could call like literally heroes. People now are conditioned to look at celebrities and famous people, and it's more because they're celebrities and famous people rather than what they're doing, the way they're living. Like it's like for me, I do my best to try to be a hero for my son, because like that he needs some kind of role model, and I try to.
What age is he?
He's 15, so he's in that.
Oh, God, a challenging,
awkward age. Yeah,
a challenging age now. He's neither a boy nor a man.
Yeah, and this, in this age as well, it's a hard one. Like it is definitely a hard time to grow up with so much, crazy stuff going about, so many crazy agendas being pushed. I know
you're right. In my case, my 3 kids, before I come to Martin, when they were going to national school now, they never saw a male teacher. None. They knew, and now I'm not making a criticism of female teachers, like, please, before people start emailing. I'm saying they only had female teachers right up all through their classes in national school. They didn't meet a male teacher till they went to second level. Now, I'm not saying whether that's a good or a bad thing, but I'm saying that surely there's an imbalance there, when it comes to little boys and little girls, on a simple level, on a very simple level, not getting too deep into it. What do you think, Martin, yourself?
Yeah, well, like when I was in primary school, I had a mix of male and female teachers. So I think it should be like that, just to represent kind of 50-50 split in society, like, and yeah, it's just better all the way. Like, well, you see, I would even go further. Like, I know people have their own thing, but I think in secondary school should be male and female as well. I know people have choices, and I know girls can do better in girls' schools as well. But I mean, I think female, male schools should go the whole way through up to college or trade school, afterwards,
Yeah.
I think so.
You're listening to Man Talk here on LiRmedia.tv. Tell all your friends about us. And our email is info@LiRmedia.tv with our special guest, Dave Sheehan. Now, Dave, we'll just move along to there's a lot of lip service paid, in my opinion, to mental health. Now, when you mention the phrase mental health, people either switch off or because I think, I might talk about myself really, I shouldn't include people. Myself personally, when I hear a discussion on the radio or television about mental health, I don't listen to it. Because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of words. I'm tired of people's platitudes. I'm tired of people playing games when it comes to mental health. And really, I think the practical thing for me, I was a volunteer with the Samaritans in Cork City 40 years ago now. And So if I'm in trouble tonight at 11 o'clock or half 11 mentally with the state I'm in, where do I go or what do I do? Right, I'm in Limerick City tonight at 11, half 11, 12 o'clock. Where do I go or what do I do? Are there any services available, Dave, do you think?
It's an area that needs serious investment and it's not getting it. And even I can't remember how much it was that they've allocated for this year, but it's pathetic. It's pennies compared to what they can. Like, it sounds like a big figure when you hear a figure, but when you think of how much they have and what they put into other things, it's pennies. And it's been the same way for a long time. Same as the health service. You know, the areas that need the investment are not getting the investment. And mental health is an area that has always needed it, increasingly needs it. With like the stuff we're talking about that's going on in the world and the constant agendas and changes and things that are being pushed, it's needed. You know, the last 12 months has created a massive need for it. Now with kids, like, kids are not meant to, you know, ever be afraid of things and never think about stuff. Now they're needing it. Like, they're being prescribed antidepressants like at bloody 10, 11 years of age, which is insane.
Shocking. That is just shocking.
It's unethical, and it shows no integrity for me in terms of like with GPs doing that, because, you know, it's crazy giving kids medication at such a young age. But the mental health area has to be tackled. And at the end of the day, what is mental health? Like, you know, it's again, like I said, your mind is a control tower. So that's the bottom line anyway. So it boils down to how you feel about yourself. That in essence is the most important thing about mental health. Because if you feel good in yourself, you've good self-esteem, self-image, good confidence in yourself, which comes of it, then you can deal with challenges. Like, we live in a world right now where there's nearly an expectation that it has to be a straight line. It has to be plain sailing. There's never problems. Life has never, ever, ever been like that. Like, life is a roller coaster. Like, there's great times and there's terrible times. And the terrible times are the ones you grow from and you develop from if you have the right mindset to deal with it. Whereas what's happened in society now is if people have any kind of problem or what they perceive as a problem, it's literally burying them. And it's like with the suicide rates and how young it's getting. And it's over what in essence are very minor problems, but to that person it's becoming massive problems. And go back again even to the media side of things and its role, you know, and constantly hammering these stories out or negative media all the time. You know, it's making people blow things up way more than they actually are. So like, in terms of people's mental health, it needs to come back to the person themselves and building them up. Bottom line, get them into a good, healthy lifestyle. You know, simple things like what they eat has a big impact on their brain. What they consume liquid-wise, big impact on their brain. Even just water, like, a simple thing for the brain. You know, exercise and getting fresh air, sleep, then what they're feeding their mind. Like, if for instance, you're playing games where you're just blowing the heads off people constantly for hours on end, it's no good. If you're watching TV with stuff that's a bit more adult-free than it should be, as a lot of kids' TV is these days, that ain't going to be good for you. If people around you are constantly negative and toxic, that ain't going to be good for you. So, you know, the mental health, the age of problems are getting lower, 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 which is the scariest thing. And there's nothing really being done to tackle the issue, which is the person themselves. They have to do something that's going to help them to feel better about themselves, and the people around them, like when it's kids especially, people around them have an important role to do the right things to help those kids. Or again, adults obviously have to start taking personal responsibility and face reality that life is a roller coaster.
And what do you think, Martin, about this whole area of mental health for ourselves? Do you think it's still there's a huge deficit in the services available?
Oh, there is, like, but if people needed help, like, they could go to Shannon Dock here out in Dora Doyle. You know, that's a night service for them. Like, I know they have the Samaritans in town as well. But the thing about it is, it's the last 20 years, like, sure, you guys yourself have talked to Joan Freeman from Pieta House. You know, she kind of made it kind of more acceptable to talk about it openly. But before that, sure, everyone knew about mental health. But the reality is, you just were locking people up in places and hospitals. But for years ago, like, I studied some of the history of the health histories in Ireland, and 3 years ago, like hundreds of years ago, people would go into kind of day clinics or hospitals, or they'd stay there for a night or two or a few nights and have food and shelter, and they'd go back to their own homes again, you know. But it's just in the last 20 years now, it seems to be a global, people talking about mental illness and mental health. And some of the movies have helped as well, like that movie Girl Interrupted with Winona Ryder as well. And some of the movies have shown you different aspects of mental health, with schizophrenia, with Russell Crowe in the movie A Beautiful Mind. You know, they show you what he's going through, you know. And like as we seen with Rain Man as well, and in the movie with Dustin Hoffman, you know, with autism, you know, some parts of autism, like, and some great documentaries around mental illness and mental health as well. You know, of course there can be more services, you know, but you know, that will have to be done in the near future.
Yeah, I suppose the first thing parents should do, it's easy for me to talk now, I'm a grandfather, but in my opinion, no child going to national school, and I mean this sincerely, male or female child, should have a phone. Nobody. They should have no phones at all. That's my opinion. I know what you think, David.
I think it would be the ideal world. Is a hard one to do though, and for most parents, it's the harder option to try fight that one, especially when all the other kids have them and stuff like that. But it's definitely the right thing to do, 100%.
If the schools made a law, if the schools made it,
yeah, exactly.
If you cannot bring phones into school, international school, then it would happen.
Like, what's the need for a phone at the end of the day? You know, if you look at it, like anyone up to, let's say, about 15, what do they need a phone for? Of course, there's a chance they might need to call, let's say, but if they're in school, they can call from the school. You know, do they need to be on social media? No, they don't need to be on social media. Like, social media is toxic for the mind for adults. So it's definitely toxic for kids. You know, so I'm 100% with you on that one. It's just, it's like a gigantic bloody tsunami. It's like it's taken over, and it's one I don't know if it could ever be pulled back.
You brought up a thing there about social media, Dave. I'm going to say something now, and none of the two of you will agree with it, and that's why I'm not. That's why I'm saying it. I'm not saying it for that reason. What I'm saying is this: when I hear the phrase online bullying, there's a whole industry in my mind has built up about online bullying. To me, there's no such thing as online bullying. Because if somebody comes on my social media pages, I'm only on it because I'm involved in LiR Media, and they were so-called bullying me online, or whatever they would say, you just erase it and block them. Am I simple, man, Dave? Am I too simple for this world?
No, like it's like when people say, "Oh, I don't like this. Why does this keep coming up on my feed?" You know, "Oh, I'm tired of their posts." It's as simple as don't bloody look at it then, or delete it, like you said, or block them. You know, you have the options. This is where taking personal responsibility has to come in. You're in terms of like online bullying, like it is a thing, but again, it's being allowed to become a thing. Like that's the big part of it. And again, if you go back to the person themselves and their own, you know, self-esteem, perception themselves, perception of reality, and so on, like if they were more comfortable in themselves, they would just block it, as opposed to just to want to just block it. It's like they're enduring it and then attracting onto themselves if they're on certain sites or certain types of social media. Or let's say TikTok, for instance, got a bit explicit for a while, even for young kids in terms of their dances and stuff. If you're putting yourself on that and you're putting stuff out there, it's like when I go on social media and I put up a post or I do a live stream or something, like I'm putting myself out there. And the more you're out there, the more you will get negative, because that's just, there's trolls and there's people who just love doing that. And you just have to have that thick skin and resilience to just deal with it and see it for what it is, which is that person just has their own issues. It's nothing to do with you. You're the target, but you know, it's not a personal thing.
And Martin, obviously, I'm not dismissing bullying as a serious problem. This is a separate issue. We're specifically speaking about online bullying. I don't believe there's any such thing as online bullying. I know what you think.
Well, yeah, as Dave said, like you can, on yourself, like you can mute, block, delete. Yeah, I mean, if you go, yeah, that's, well, I was watching some Australian show on, and they're saying like you shouldn't be getting into arguments with people you don't know anyway. You know what I mean? Why are you doing that for? You know what I mean? And
yeah.
and just like he's just telling these kids not to be doing that. So yeah, you just, you know, but I guess human beings, they like arguments and rows anyway. Like if it's not personal and you're getting into the issues, maybe that's interesting, you know. Sure, once it becomes personal, sure, look, you have to kind of just mute, block, and just move away from it, you know.
No.
Like one thing I think is big with the online side is that, you know, vast majority of, let's say, the bullying, the bad stuff that's going on, there's no hope in hell 90% that would ever happen if it was face to face. So people are well able to hide behind computers and say stuff and do stuff and hammer down on people. But that's again where the person on the receiving end has to be strong enough to, you know, stop it, ignore it. Like Martin said, just ignore it and stuff. Or, you know, if they're very young and it's happening, make sure you tell an adult. You know, if you're a kid, like that's what the adult's there for.
Well, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, you know. And Dave Sheehan, the special guest here on Man Talk today, and on LiRmedia.tv, and our email is info@LiRmedia.tv. And indeed, any questions you have on the issues raised, you can email them on to us, so we'll pass them on certainly to Dave as well. And any questions you might have for further programs, you can email us in, you know. One email at a time, that's all we'll be able to deal with. I'm only joking. Email us whatever you like. Now, men's network, men's support systems in the community for men. I know women, and it's fantastic. I know my own mum going way, way back, and she passed away there at the end of last year at the age of 91. Fantastic age. But she raised 9 of us and raised other kids around the village as well where we live. But my own mum is fantastic networking. Women, I think, there was always 3 or 4 other women in the house. I remember as a young lad growing up as a child, you know. But you never saw 4 or 5 men with my dad, and that's not a negative against my dad. I'm just saying women, I think, had this more resilient than men. They're certainly more resilient. There's more networks, Dave, I think, available because of women themselves. We're very slow off the mark, I think, to network, are we?
Yeah, women love talking more than men, or they become good at talking more than men, or it's accepted.
Yeah.
So kind of mixtures of all of them. They naturally gravitate towards, like, even simple things like, you know, coffee mornings, going for coffees after, say, dropping the kids. Like you said before, coming into the house, you know, the mothers and that would come together. But again, it's more societal kind of nearly conditioning as well. You know, so it's a bit of societal conditioning, I think, that's nearly what's normal. When at the end of the day, we're all just humans. We do, like, you know, interact in human interaction and so on. Just the problem with guys is that, you know, we're taught nearly to just get on with it, just do things, don't talk about stuff. It's like we said, with mental health and emotions. Yeah. Well, we're not meant to talk about that stuff. If you talk about that stuff, you're weak, supposedly. You know, like you're meant to get on with it. You're tough. You're, like we said earlier, alpha male and this type of idea. So I think because that's been around for so long, it's a big reason why guys don't interact. You wouldn't see guys calling around to a house, or even like a phone call, like we said earlier when we were chatting, or yesterday when we were chatting. You know, a guy's phone call might be a couple of minutes, 10 minutes max. Women can be on the phone for a couple of hours.
They could.
You know?
So, don't I know it myself when I was married? But you know, I'm not very negative about the bill or anything. You were on fixed things. But anyway, Martin, what do you think? Is there? I mean, the men's sheds, I suppose, have been an innovation for men. Martin, do you think?
Yeah, like they started a few years ago in Australia, and yeah, they've got a lot of men to work together. Like they usually work on projects with whatever they're into, like, you know, and they work in sheds. But you know, as people are men, boys are younger, like they have friends, and they usually have a best friend, and they hang around at each other's homes and sleepovers, and you know, they play in hurling teams as well, you know. So there is that going on early on, but as boys get older, it seems to fade away or something. It seems like the men kind of turn into Clint Eastwood or something, like they seem to be on their own or something. But yeah, well, unless then they meet someone, like, you know. But yeah, I think the men's sheds played a great role. There's a few now here in Limerick, and I'm guessing Clare as well, and Cork. And you know, you know, but I guess you have to be into, you were saying before, Pat, like you have to be into whatever they're into. Like if you're into certain, like into carpentry or something, whatever you're into, you have to be into that yourself, I guess, you know.
Well, certainly the men's sheds have indeed. I know a lot of men that avail of them. Myself in Shannon, I know there's people who want in Shannon, and it's a fantastic outlet for some people, and I think it's great. I suppose, Dave, there is the beginning of men being more aware now, and from not my generation, but certainly from your own generation, that there's more awareness. Really, I think you see a lot more men hanging around together now as well. You know, which is a good thing.
Yeah, no, there's definitely more awareness, definitely more of a push. Men have become a lot more open. Now, it's a long way to go compared to where they need to be ideally, but definitely become more open, definitely more willing to ask for help. As you said, congregating together and stuff a lot more. Like a sanctuary for guys a lot of time was always the pub. Like that was the one place where, you know, guys got together and had a chat and got a bit of stress relief from being at home and stuff like that. And that was important, as well as like sporting occasions, like going to matches or, you know, doing coaching with teams, kids teams, adults teams, and so on. So there's been various outlets over the years, and it has definitely improved. It needs to keep going. You know, it's like Martin was saying, like when we're kids, we hang around with friends, we play sports, we hang out in each other's houses. It's like when I was a kid, again like that, you'd only be at home to eat. You went out and you played with whoever the hell was out there, and you played ball, you played whatever. You know, so we're all social beings. And again, this is where the sex doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, we're social beings. We like human interaction. We like having a laugh. We like chatting. We like meeting new people. It's just natural. It's normal. But as I said, this is where the kind of stereotypes comes in, and this is where some social conditioning comes in, and we need to break this. So even men's sheds and all these kind of things and initiatives, they need to keep being driven on and on and on. Like the biggest problem, I suppose, like we said earlier, with funding, there's so little funding, and most good things that are going on, it's done by normal people giving up their own time and volunteering for it. It's like even with the Samaritans and these type of things, or you know, the watches around like the Shannon River and in Limerick City and things. Like it's just normal people giving up their own time. That shouldn't be the case. Like these things should be funded. There should be money put into this to make these services available, a lot more of them.
Mm-hmm. And when in talk about men, we were just speaking yesterday. I was speaking to with Dave on the phone yesterday, and we're talking about men. You're thinking about things that we can do ourselves as men that doesn't cost any money, that is free to do if we just set our minds. Things like simple things like yoga, Dave, as well, you mentioned, and you know, little medium exercises. You know, I mean, sometimes people need guidance through that even.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, like yoga would be another example of even the way things have changed. Like if you take yoga, was always seen as definitely a female orientated thing, and just people who were just very much into mindfulness, which was always seen as a bit airy fairy. And I remember Roy Keane came out whenever that was that in probably mid-90s, saying he was doing yoga. And of all the people to say he was doing yoga, it was like, what?
Well, he's an awful lot of men's yoga.
So he did huge things. Like I remember it was shocking, and it ended up coming out that Manchester United as a squad were doing it. Now yoga is standard for any sporting person. They realize how important it is, and it's become very mainstream. A lot of guys do it, but it just takes again that little push to make it normal. Because again, it's just an activity. It's good for you. It's good for de-stressing. It's good for stretching out your body. Good for preventing injury. That doesn't matter again what sex you are. So it's these types of walls that need to be broken down to make these things that are normal for both sexes, and you know, for more and more guys to get involved in these things.
Do you know, I had forgotten about Roy Keane saying that. Now that you mentioned it, I remember at the time when he came on the television and radio that he was doing yoga, which is nearly 30 years ago now, you know. Martin, what about you? Did you ever take up a little bit of yoga?
I did the mindfulness, actually. I went down to the Buddhist center here on Henry Street. I've went there, a friend of mine, like, and we did that for about an hour. Like, you know, you have to close your eyes, and they had a gong, and it was good, all right. You know, it just places you in the present, as to say, your senses are living in the present instead of thinking about the past and the future. But it's just reminded me of Roy Keane. I read Roy Keane's book, and you know, he was complaining about the cheese sandwiches and the pizzas before a game, and you couldn't believe it. He was asked, "Where's the cereals? Where's the salads? Where's the pasta?" And he got so angry, he just got a pizza box and just went upstairs, you know. But he just
well, he's one of my heroes. Of course, being from Cork, he'd have to be one of my heroes. But no, he's done a lot of positive things, you know, and he's been out there, you know. Fair play to him. You know, you have to admire him, because someone like that's in the public eye has a lot more to lose than you and I mouthing off here and there, you know. But someone like him, and as you said, Dave, rightly, when he mentioned the thing over 20 years ago about yoga, I mean, really, that a lot of men did sit up and take notice of this. I mean, he's successful, he's top of his game, successful player, and well, you could see what it does to him, the flexibility, and of course the mind as well, you know, which is. I did try a couple of years ago when I was in holidays, and I thought it was fantastic. This thing, hot stone therapy, you know, I think it's just fantastic. I don't know if there's any place in Limerick doing it. If there is, you might just email us in here and let us know, because that would be my thing anyway. Hot stone therapy. Did you ever do it, David?
I haven't done it, but I'm aware of it. And there's definitely a place in Limerick that does it. Like the big thing, it's like Martin was saying there with doing the work in the Buddha place. You know, it's so important just to quieten the mind. You know, the bottom line, we're living in such a hamster wheel world, and the pressure is constant, the stress is constant, which, you know, society has created, and people are constantly striving instead of living in the present and just enjoying the now. And we have to start doing that. And that's where, you know, activities like that, activities like meditation, visualization, you know, doing yoga, there's different types, and some are a bit more meditative than others. But we need to start doing more of this and press stop and just allow our brain to breathe and let our body rejuvenate, you know. And when you do, like I'm sure, like Martin, I bet you felt your brain work much better, more thoughts went through clearer, you probably got some great ideas. When we press stop, you know, we can achieve so much more.
Absolutely, yeah. Just you feel much calmer as well, your mind, and you just feel more at ease. Like, you know, the technology in life is going so fast. I don't think the human can deal with it. It has to it needs space and time just to kind of take it to kind of just to deal with it all, you know. But it does help a lot, like, you know, and just walking as well, and good at just having activities to do, even to go down to the shop, you're walking from A to B, like, you know, you don't even have to go for a walk. Just think about going to the shopping center or go down to the shop, you're walking, you know what I mean? You're walking to and from, so you're getting your exercise anyway. I guess like half an hour or so a day, you know?
Yeah, and I know myself, there's a big transition, of course, as you said, David and Martin, when I had to retire at 65 because I was in the public service, I had to retire. And the shock to the system when the whole routine is gone. You know, it was there Friday, come the following Monday, when you woke up at the normal time and you realize I have nothing to do, or in your head, obviously, you have nothing to do. And I think life is a bit like that. Actually, you have a lot to do if you really think about it, you know. You can fill up your day with, you know, with things, and you have more time as well to give them if you only think about it. I've taken up reading a few books that I meant to read, and little things like that. And reading a book as well. I know it's exercise for your brain. I think that's what my dad now is almost 91. And the one thing about his brain, he's kept his brain active, you know, and I think that has helped him physically as well, because he's an avid reader all his life. No matter how many of us were, there was 9 of us in the family, no matter how many kids were around, he always read a book, always read. I think that there was a travelling library out to the village where we lived. We lived 6 miles from Mallow in North Cork, out in the middle of the country, and there was a travelling library going around. And at the end of, I think he got a presentation, I think he had every single book read in the travelling library. They tell you how long they didn't replenish them. Almost every book in the travelling library eventually had them all read. So but I think that helped him today, you know. He's 90 now, obviously he wouldn't be as mobile, but that helped him. That mental capacity to read, avid reader, just a little interest. And it was all Zane Grey novels. Was it Zane Grey? Western novels. I remember them all over the house, you know. But anyway, he gave us all a love of reading as well. He watched television as well, and cycled to work, gave up the motorbike, cycled to work when felt he wasn't fit enough, which was 3 miles, I think, every day and 3 miles home. So I think all of that helps, all small little things like that. We would encourage men, of course, Dave, to do yoga exercises. You can do the simple ones, you know.
Yeah.
I know at my age I wouldn't be as supple or pliable as a 30-year-old, but nevertheless I'd be fit enough anyway, you know.
That's it. Well, I think you bring up a very important point, you know, like you're saying there, especially with retiring age. If you look at the lifespan for the vast majority, you know, they're children, then you go to school, then to bigger school, then to secondary school, then it's like exam times, then they finish the exams, go to college, straight from college straight to work, and then work for 40, 50 years, flat out, again, as I said, in a pretty mental lifestyle as it is now. Yeah. And then all of a sudden there's nothing. And you know, it's like your dad's a perfect example of what happens when you do keep your mind active and you do keep your days filled with activities that both you enjoy and also that stimulate you and give you something to do. Like, we have to have a purpose, and it's a very like we're taught to and conditioned to look to when we retire is when life is really going to be amazing. But for so many people, it isn't. It's actually literally the time that does literally kill them. because they have nothing to strive for. They have no purpose. And at a cellular level, even, we're growing or dying. So if you're not stimulating your brain, whether it be through crosswords even, or Sudokus, or reading books, or you're doing a little side job, or gardening, or growing vegetables, or walking, or whatever it might be. Like the way you'll have some people who do marathons at 90 years of age. They do it because their head's in the right place.
Yeah.
Like my dad is 70 this summer, and like he's always doing something. Like he took
Only young for
yeah. He feels it anyway, and he acts it. Like he's fitter than a lot of 20 and 30-year-olds, but it's because his head's in a good place, because he's never stopped doing something, striving for stuff. And like I've booked him into marathons and stuff, so he has stuff to strive for. You know, we have to keep stimulating our brain, and retiring should be a wonderful opportunity to then actually enjoy life. But for many people, it doesn't end up being that way. So we have to stimulate.
You know, Martin, you're a young lad in comparison to me. I'm just thinking there, we're talking about mental health. In secondary school, Martin, I know when I was going to secondary school, there was no talk about that, about challenges like that. Nothing brought up, or no, I don't. Did much happen in your secondary school when you were going there about how to handle these mental issues that might come up, these mental problems, you know?
We just got physical health, you know. We had I think double class on a Wednesday, like we played outside hurling and football, and we played basketball inside, you know. But there was no talk about that like back in the mid 90s. So like from the 90s, from 92 to 97, when I was in secondary school, it was just PE and double class, and just indoor sports. We did like stretching and training like before we did some of the sporting activities.
Yeah.
But no, there was no talk of that. Like I don't know if Dave knows, or yourself, if there's any talk of health in school today.
Like I had the same experience of. So yeah, we're probably around the same age in school. So going by the years you're saying, like same thing, PE maybe once a week. Definitely no talk about mental health or anything. Even now with my son in school now, they have a thing, I think CB something anyway, there's letters in it, and it's a little bit of kind of, I suppose, talk and a bit of mindfulness, but you know, it's a bit flimsy. It's like 40 minutes a week in that. And like, this is the big flaw of the educational system. Like it teaches you to, you know, learn answers to stuff, never question anything. And also it doesn't teach you anything that's really actually useful for life. Like there should be like that mental health programs throughout school, without a doubt, like prepare you for life. When you leave school, you're not really prepared for anything. You're prepared for sitting exams on stuff you've learned off. You're not prepared for life.
Yeah, like resilience, like as you said, you know, getting enough sleep. I know it sounds boring to people. Eating the right stuff, it all feeds into your mental well-being. That's what I'm trying to get at, and that is not in the system. We're not knocking teachers or anyone. We're just saying that there has to be space for things like that in the classroom, because that's where you have a captive audience. You have them from 9 o'clock to 4, Monday to Friday. God's sake, lads, would you just do it?
Look at even the PE side. You know, like my son is a double class on a Wednesday, I think it is. So that's an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. That's it. They should be doing PE every day. Even if you take now at lunch times. Like before, when I was a kid, we were doing football, we were doing wrestling, we were doing all kinds of stuff, bulldog, for an hour at lunch. Now they can't do anything because they're too afraid someone's going to claim. You know, there's so many schools out, there's no activities, not even allowed to do activities. I used to go into school 40 minutes before school to play football. So I was playing before school, I was playing at lunchtime, and you play after, and you had your sports. So you were constantly active. But like, because life has become more sedentary and the new generation play computers and phones and all that so much, PE needs to be part of the day anyway. And if you take from a productivity and a learning point of view, like if you do a couple hours of work and then you do even if it was 30 minutes of activity, your brain is stimulated. You're going to digest way more information when you go back in learning. So even it makes sense from that perspective.
I know in Japan, from friends of mine that had dealings back in the 1980s even, they have 30 minutes of aerobic exercises, the whole company, whatever company you're working for, that's how you start your day. You don't start your day by sitting at your desk. You start your day by being suitably attired to go through this exercise for 30, 40 minutes, and then you go into work. As you said, Dave, you go into work, you're totally refreshed.
Yeah. I've seen some of those, seen videos of that, like hundreds of workers, especially on construction sites and that, hundreds, and they're doing all kinds of jumping exercise and nearly yoga type exercise and everything. Like your brain's recharged, your body's recharged, like you're thinking better, you're digesting things better, you feel better, because when you exercise, you feel better. So even take from the self-esteem, confidence point of view, it gives you endorphin kick, the mental health point of view. If you feel a little low and you do some exercise, it's guaranteed you'll feel a little better. Mightn't last long, but it'll definitely feel better.
No, it might be just that idea that'll give you that business to cope better for that day anyway, and that's all we're talking about. You never had any of those exercises, so Martin. Well, I certainly had. Well, I had plenty of football and hurling when I was growing up. It was all outside, in national school anyway. Secondary school, I can't even remember anymore. I don't know, but certainly we believe here on this edition of Man Talk that physical exercise is extremely important, and mental well-being should be part and parcel of the curriculum in all schools, in national schools and secondary school. We think there's a deficit there. Before we finish up on this, Dave Sheehan is our special guest today, and Dave can be found at dreamstoreality1@gmail.com. Is that your email, Dave?
That's an email, yeah. So email or any social media, you can catch me, send me a message anytime.
He's all over the social media. We said social media now, not in the Garda station. You won't find his picture there yet, but you'll find him all over social media. Any final words before we want to go, lads? Mental well-being, I suppose, and we are improving as a species. We make up 50% of the population still. We're holding on to that, and we think that there's still a lot to be done, but there's more and more, I suppose, support systems within the community, and particularly here where we are in the Midwest in Limerick, where there are support systems. Lads, it's been fantastic having you along, and for this edition of Man Talk, and we look forward to the next one. Tell all your friends about us, and our email is info@lirmedia.tv. And from Dave Sheehan, from Martin and from myself, Pat, until we meet again, lads, thanks very much for sharing your thoughts with us on this edition of Man Talk. So until we see you again, good day and good luck. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're out. If I cut off, we'll go off, Dave.